Good evening. My name is Kimberly Thomas. I am a student at Liberty University. Tonight I will be presenting my project on interpersonal communication for HSCO 508. Interpersonal communication. Introduction. What is interpersonal communication? Interpersonal communication has been defined in numerous ways. Stewart defines interpersonal communication as a type or kind of communication that happens when the people involved talk and listen in ways that maximize the presence of the person. It has also been defined as a social process involving understanding and transfer of information from one person to another. Peterson discussed good communication. He states that good communication is just as important in business, family, and social life. Listening well matters for coworkers. When intimacy is not the goal, but being able to work together effectively is. This keeps friendships vital and even makes a difference in casual relationships. Interpersonal communication consists of several different components. These components are the communicators, the message, noise, factors, feedback, context, and channels. Communicators. In communication, it takes at least two people in order to communicate. The message includes both verbal and nonverbal communication. Noise factors can be physical noise, which impedes or interferes with the communication, and other factors can also be considered noise. Feedback is the receiver returning the message to the sender, which demonstrates the accurateness of what they have received or heard. The context of the message can be influenced by the place in which the message is being delivered. Channels of communication. These are the physical means by which the messenger transfers the message from one person to another. Overarching goals, or overarching goals. OAG. Effective communication. We don't realize that listening is such an important yet often overlooked skill, according to Burley Allen. The need to communicate effectively is one of the most important goals of interpersonal communication. Interpersonal communication involves sending and receiving information among individuals. This is also referred to as inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling are vital to living. Every human organism must inhale and exhale in order to exist. It is also vital to interpersonal communication. As living organisms, when we inhale, we're taking in air, and when we exhale, we are releasing that air. In interpersonal communication, the act of inhaling is listening or taking in information, and the act of exhaling is releasing the information or the expression of oneself. Stewart uses the metaphor inhaling and exhaling in an attempt to analyze and reveal the means of interpersonal communication process. Enlarging the conversation. Peterson metaphorically compares the listener to a midwife who enlarges the conversation by asking open and clarifying questions. Say what you mean and mean what you say. In order to enlarge our conversation, we must first engage our listening audience and build relationships. Communication takes two. Keep the relationship going because conversation is the relationship. It is a process which involves a sender and a receiver. In this process, the sender is in control of the dialogue and is able to infuse the conversation with their thoughts and ideas. In this transfer of information which takes place, the receiver has the ability to seek clarification and to ask questions of the sender. In order to enlarge conversations, individuals might have to engage themselves more by learning about different cultures. Because we all come from different cultures and different backgrounds, it is very important to have knowledge of the culture or background of the individual in which you are conversing. This can happen through reading more and also just studying the individual or speaking to the individual to gain more knowledge. Reading more will help us enlarge our conversation by learning new things, learning new words, being open to different ideas and different cultures. These things can be acquired through reading. Approaching the conversation with an open mind. Once again, we must approach the conversation with an open mind because of the fact that there are individuals who come from different backgrounds, different upbringings, and different cultures. Pray for wisdom and understanding. Praying for wisdom and understanding is very important in conversations because there are many things that may be disclosed in conversations that we may not always know the meaning, we may not always understand. So therefore, it is important for us to pray, seek God for wisdom and understanding. Being open to new ways of thinking and ideas. It is always a great idea to always have an open mind and be willing to learn new things, new ways of doing things, as well as new ideas and new ways of thinking. Background influence. Communication behavior is directly influenced by the personality of an individual, and that it has a biological base. An individual's background plays a major role in their ability to communicate effectively. Taking myself as an example, my mother passed away when I was 5 years old, and I was raised by my grandmother, who was from a different generation as well as a different era and time. And my grandmother was not able to effectively communicate with me on the level in which I could actually comprehend and grow from. Needless to say, there were many things that my grandmother did not know and could not teach me because she only had a third-grade education. She lacked interpersonal skills. However, I was taught what happens in this house stays in this house, which therefore anything that occurred in my life that may have been traumatic or detrimental, I learned how to deal with that by internalizing those issues. So I was not able to learn how to effectively communicate the things that were going on in my life because of my upbringing and what I had been taught about non-disclosure. Despite the fact that I wasn't taught how to effectively communicate, I did learn a great deal from my grandmother about how to treat individuals, how to interact with other people. I was taught to be respectful and kind and caring, to work hard and apply myself. I was also taught sound Christian values and how to love God. But on the other hand, I missed lessons on how to build relationships, how to trust someone enough to open up and discuss my issues. I missed valuable lessons on how not to be so guarded that I shut myself off from the very help that I so desperately needed. As you can see, a person's background has a lot to do with their ability to effectively communicate with others. Behavioral blends. What is DISC? DISC is a personality test used to help individuals increase their self-knowledge. Behavioral blends. What is your personality type? Behavioral blend is the DISC personality assessment. This assessment consists of 4 behavioral types with both positive and negative tendencies. Carbonell presents 4 basic personality types that blend together to make up each unique individual, or the DISC personality model, where the D's represent dominant, directing, and deceive. I's are influence and inspiring. S stands for submissive and sensitive. C's are for cautious, critical, and competent. The positive DISC tendencies. D would represent hardworking and industrious. I, conceiving, persuading, and promoting. S, soft, humble, and peaceful. C, cautious, analytical, perfectionist, precise thinker. Examples of positive DISC tendencies are creativity, originality, spiritedness, caution, and outgoing, just to name a few. The negative DISC tendencies can be daring, brave, adventurous, energetic, clowning, and entertaining, non-systematic, or questioning. Examples of the negative tendencies are judgmental, aggression or aggressiveness, controlling, opinionated, relentless, and demanding. Based on my uniquely you personality assessment, I am an S type. This means that I am passive and a people-oriented person. S types think that people expect them to be more sensitive and submissive. My behavioral blend is a CSD, which means that I am competent, I'm steady, and I'm a doer. My behavioral blend describes me perfectly. I am a passionate, passive person who sometimes can be too patient and too kind. I have the heart of a servant. There are many communication barriers that we face in our daily communication. Communication barriers can be things such as external distractions, such as noise. Noise is considered a communicational barrier, a communication barrier where it is an external distraction. Perception, the way that we view things, the way that we think of things, our perception or our personal point of view can be a communication barrier. Cultural differences. We all have cultural differences. We come from different backgrounds. We come from different cultures. We have different upbringings and different religious beliefs. These can cause a communication barrier. Defensiveness. Feeling threatened or unsafe. Jargon. And emotions. Our personal feelings or our emotions can also be a communication barrier. However, there are ways that we can combat these barriers. Combating potential barriers. The following are some ways to combat these potential communication barriers. Using nexting in communication. Giving feedback. Choosing our words carefully. Being flexible. Be aware of our mood and our personal feelings, trying to be as stress-free as possible. Being conscious of cultural differences and staying calm and relaxed. Noise and channels. Noise affects the ability to communicate effectively. There are both internal noises as well as external noises that cause breakdowns in our communication. Channels of communication can be either direct or indirect. Direct channels of communication are verbal or nonverbal. Verbal channels of communication can be written or they can be spoken. Nonverbal channels of communication can be sound or our controlled body movement. Indirect channels of communication are subconsciously done, such as body language. Many times individuals don't realize the body language that they are displaying in communication. We sit with our arms folded, our heads turned, our eyebrows raised, our feet crossed, tapping, or even sitting erect in a very rigid position can be considered indirect channels of communication. Plan of action. The plan of the diligent leads surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. Proverbs 21:5. In order to become more productive and a better communicator, a more effective communicator, we must have a plan of action. Before beginning any counseling session, the first and foremost action is to pray. Seek God for instruction and the Holy Spirit for guidance. My personal plan of action consists of the following: learning how to effectively communicate, developing active listening skills. Over the course of these 8 weeks, listening and reading about why we don't listen has really helped me in the area of active listening. I thought I was an active listener until I took this course and began to read the information written by Peterson. Peterson, it gave great information regarding the fact that we are not good listeners. We are not active listeners. We do not listen. And in reading this information and listening to the lectures, it was very enlightening to me to see that I had been in error for many years, believing myself to be a good listener or to be an effective listener or even an active listener. Prior to this course, I didn't think about or even know about active listening, but I am appreciative to the fact of learning about active listening skills and becoming an active part of the communication process. Learning to allow individuals to speak without interjecting or offering solutions before they have completed their thought. This is another area in which I found weakness. I found weakness within myself because I was a person that always wanted to come to the rescue, offer advice, offer consultation, offer my opinion in areas in which perhaps all I needed was to sit back and allow the person to complete their thought or complete the process in which they were going through in the dialogue so that they could come to the conclusion of their own result. They can more than likely answer their own question without me even interjecting or saying anything. So therefore, this is one of the things that I have endeavored to improve. It's my active listening skills to where I do not offer or interject in the middle of an individual completing their sentence or completing their thought. Seeking wisdom and understanding through prayer and the guidance of the Holy Spirit. This is something else that I will continue to do, is to pray and seek wisdom and to seek guidance and understanding so that I am able to approach every conversation in a manner to where it will lead to a productive and effective conversation with individuals. Learning when to self-disclose and when self-disclosure is inappropriate. I am the type of person, I've always said that my life is an open book. And therefore, I am one to often self-disclose as a part of my testimony and witnessing to others. However, I have learned over the course of time that self-disclosure can sometimes be detrimental because individuals may not be emotionally prepared to hear what is being released, and maybe they're not even spiritually mature enough to receive what is being given. So therefore, I have learned when to self-disclose and when self-disclosure is inappropriate. The conclusion. The conclusion of my interpersonal project deals with the vitality of interpersonal communication. We know that it is vital. Interpersonal communication is a vital part of our life. In order to productively move throughout society, we must be able to communicate with others effectively. Therefore, it is important for us to learn how to effectively communicate with individuals on every level. We must learn how to comprehend with all people. We must be able to speak on every level. We must be able to dialogue with individuals, whether young or old, whether educated or non-educated. We must be able to effectively communicate on every level. As counselors, it is very important because our work will involve dealing with individuals from their youth all the way into their adult elderly stages. So therefore, we must learn how to effectively communicate with others and how to conduct ourselves ethically, and most of all, how to pray without ceasing, going forth praying, seeking God for wisdom, seeking the Holy Spirit for guidance as we go forth in our area of or lines of work, knowing that it takes effective communication in order to be productive and effective counselors.